Branding is everything when it comes to launching a corporate VTubing group. Well, not literally everything. Character design, initial performance, exposure, connections, and all those other elements also help. But the brand of the VTuber group also plays quite a significant role. It just doesn't dictate the initial success of the VTubers in question, they dictate the environment, expectations, community, and the base viewership a VTuber gets. You put a talent in Hololive or NIJISANJI JP or EN, and they get a lot of mainstream attention, whether that's from Japan or the West. Every anime news site is going to try and squeeze everything they can about the debut, and the VTubing circles in 4chan, Reddit, Facebook and Twitter and Japanese social media is going to be talking about them. You put a talent in Hololive Indonesia and they'll be successful, but they'll be nerfed. They won't get as much initial attention as EN and will have to rely on their own skills, talents, and word of mouth to make up for it. But you put someone in a branch like Holostars or NIJISANJI Korea and However, it could be worse. What if you launch a VTuber group to a demographic that's microscopic in the industry, to a group that's not exactly profitable, to a place where there was no demand or desire of it at all, and to a culture that barely knows what the fuck VTubers are? What if you launch a VTuber group without doing any research and without the vision to know what to do with them? Well, the answer is obvious. You've read the title, didn't you? Cue the intro. NIJISANJI India was an absolute failure, not because the talents weren't good, but because of a whole slew of problems outside the talents and in some way even the agency's control. But before I'm going to tell you why and how that happened, what is NIJISANJI India anyway? It's the Indian branch for NIJISANJI. That's all there is to it. NIJISANJI India's genesis started in late 2019, when NIJISANJI released an audition call for Indian VTubers. Exciting! The massive phenomena of virtual YouTubing. In 2019, a time where VTubing was obscure outside East Asia, in a place where the weeb culture was not exactly mainstream, and where the VTubing community was almost non-existent? Gee, I sure hope I have a chance of succeeding, especially since I'm the first of my branch and I'm targeting a demographic that's not really into VTubers. I'm sure the higher-ups knows what they're doing if they're doing something like this, right? They didn't. I don't want it to seem like I'm dissing NIJISANJI or the Indian branch. I just wanted to convey how you can see why this was not a good idea from the very beginning, and why it was baffling that they thought it was. Some people showed relative interest at the announcement, but others were skeptical and questioned the decision to expand there. You see, at the time, AnyColor was doing what I think can be best described as fast VTuber colonialism. It was an endeavor that either hit or missed, but while expanding to China, Indonesia, and Korea was understandable since they had an established weeb fanbase, in India, the fanbase there almost didn't exist. And on their debut date of January 2020, very few people tuned in to stay and watch them, except for Noor. And you know what? Not many of the viewers there were actually Indians, so their domestic viewership was almost non-existent, causing them to speak more English than Hindi. They had like 20 to 50 live viewers as far as I remember, and with Noor reaching up to a few hundred. These are good enough numbers for most indies, but not for a group that's backed up by the top dogs of the VTubing business. A few months later, in June 2020 however, NIJISANJI India decided to rebrand to NIJISANJI EN due to their failed domestic market penetration. Perhaps they thought that this sudden change would make some buzz due to the fact that, technically, this was one of the first English branches that the big VTubing corpo created. However, there's a problem. NIJISANJI didn't really have a dedicated EN audience to warrant an English branch at that time. There were very few translated clips of them, aside from the frankly mediocre clips that the official channel pumped out. And because of that, the YouTube algorithm didn't promote them to English-speaking countries as much as Hololive, who had a great abundance of clippers and translators. NIJISANJI certainly wasn't fit to open the first big English branch. So even if NIJISANJI launched an EN branch way before Hololive, they would not have blown up even remotely near as Myth did, especially if they did so this early. But rebranding into NIJISANJI EN and making it your first EN branch to appeal to English viewers was a terrible idea. Changing your name doesn't do jack shit if the name you're changing into doesn't carry weight. Their expansion to the greater English-speaking demographic and their first branch being a half-assed rebranding attempt like this wasn't a good look for NIJISANJI or AnyColor, which caused a few people to raise their eyebrows. In any case, whatever increase in viewership and traction that NIJISANJI India got from this name change didn't really do anything significant. The only person in NIJISANJI India who found decent success was Noor, who was the definite fan favorite. In fact, The gap was pretty fucking massive. After rebranding, NIJISANJI India was doing their own thing, playing games together and doing typical VTubing stuff. That was until Hololive EN's myth exploded, changed the VTubing landscape forever and took over the world. Then VShoujo also became really successful and big brands were starting to launch their own English VTubers. So because they wanted to get serious, they wanted NIJISANJI IN to be a rather big endeavor this time. No more half-ass expansions, they were going to take their sweet time to plan their course, do actual research and pull out the marketing big boys. But there was a problem. They already had an English branch, and if this was their response to the VTuber boom and if casual fans found NIJISANJI interesting, wanted to check out their EN branch and saw this, that wasn't going to work out well for them. If they wanted to expand to the West, they needed specific people, and the current members of NIJISANJI India were not it. They needed to start from the ground up, burn the forest to let a better one grow. As such, NIJISANJI IN reverted to NIJISANJI India on November of 2020, and the very few people that followed them were rather confused or upset, because at this point it was clear that NIJISANJI didn't really know how to manage the branch. People accused them of not giving a fuck about the branch and not doing anything for the talents at all. That being said, NIJISANJI India's activities didn't stop. They still continued to stream for a couple more months, and while they did, nothing really changed. There was no substantial growth, they barely broke 100 live viewers and wasn't really pulling any money. Except for Noor because she speaks Japanese, had the coolest character design, was the most familiar with the culture and a lot of other factors. This continued for a couple months. That was until on April of 2021, Anycolor announced the graduation of NIJISANJI India and suspended the NIJISANJI India brand indefinitely. This was Ichikara's admission that yes, this project was a complete utter failure. And how did the fans react? Well, nobody was surprised. A lot of people saw this coming from a mile away. Hell, people saw this coming the moment Ichikara launched that audition call for India. And again, some people were genuinely mad because it seemed like NIJISANJI just didn't give a fuck about them. Similar sentiments are also shared when it comes to NIJISANJI Korea and in some way, NIJISANJI Indonesia too. To them, NIJISANJI was stretching themselves too thin and expanding too rapidly, and the resources to fund and market these VTubers were extremely tight. And because the Indian branch was the least influential and was barely making any money, they were just an afterthought. The sad part is that not many people really turned into their graduation streams too. Except for Noor, obviously. As such, NIJISANJI India, the OG NIJISANJI IN, was dissolved and very few people mourned them, or even knew who they were. Other than fucking Noor again. People really loved Noor, goddamn. So with that being said, the question remains. Why did NIJISANJI India fail this hard? The answer is actually simple. While many people may point out that NIJISANJI didn't advertise them enough, I actually disagree. NIJISANJI did all they could with the resources they had. They put them in international collabs, put them in the official clips, showed them off in NIJIFest and was basically allowed to do whatever they want. You can argue that they might have done this too late, since the first few months of a VTuber group's debut are key for its success, and I'd actually agree with you. But Twitter promotions and collabs with other branches can only get you so far. What else could have NIJISANJI done for them? Buy billboards in India, ad slots in Indian social media, and all kinds of costly endeavors that didn't guarantee a profitable return? No. The real mistake that NIJISANJI made here wasn't that they didn't market them enough, it's that they didn't do any research. Not about the culture of Indians, whether they were profitable for this sort of business and whether there was any demand for VTubers there. NIJISANJI India in paper sounded like a good idea. India had a rapidly increasing interest in anime, it's also the country with the second biggest population and is as such an untapped goldmine, and the ones leading the charge was one of the world's biggest and most profitable agency. However, it gets less promising when we analyze the details. India had a rising interest in anime, but anime culture there wasn't exactly profitable, unlike in the West, Indonesia, China, Japan, the Philippines, and a lot of other countries. Relative to their size, India did not have much of a mainstream weeb presence. And remember, VTubing was still just a niche of a niche. Even if an Indian liked anime, it doesn't automatically translate to liking VTubers. It is the country with the second biggest population, but there were no domestic demand for VTubers there. One might think that NIJISANJI wanted to and should create that demand, but you can't just create a demand that easily, especially not with NIJISANJI's stretched out budget and marketing plan at the time. In the end, NIJISANJI India failed because it was a half-assed campaign and there was no market for them. 2019 was a time when VTubing companies were trying to find out what works for the VTubing business and what doesn't. pioneers of the industry like Hololive, Update, and NIJISANJI are bound to make mistakes. It's just that this one was one of NIJISANJI's interesting ones. There's a lesson to be learned here for many VTuber agencies if they want to expand. The biggest being that they have to actually do their fucking research before breaking into a new market. Especially if that market has different cultures from what these VTuber companies are familiar with. Like I said, branding is a very important factor when it comes to launching a VTuber group. The relative success depends on it a lot more than you know, which is why it's key that if you're an aspiring VTuber who wants to join an agency, you choose well what branch or brand of that agency you want to jump into. Do your fucking research. However, despite the brand nerfs or buffs, a VTuber's success isn't predetermined. Their own merits, hard work, and skills will be able to negate the brand nerf. I mean, look at fucking Noor. And conversely, their lack of creativity and entertainment skill or unfortunate circumstances outside their control will be able to cancel the buff too. But you know, joining other smaller agencies is an option too. Aspiring VTubers can choose to start small and join agencies like Prism Project, Tsunderia, Face Connect, and a shit ton of others just to get a general feel for the industry or even add something to their portfolio. I especially recommend you check out Face Connect. And if you do, tell Sakana I said hello. Thanks for watching this video, and if I missed something or if you'd like to correct or add something to the video, leave it in the comments. And if you want to support me, joining my membership or Patreon for exclusive content and a whole array of benefits will be the best way to do so. Anyway, that's it. See ya.